Welcome to the Code with Jason meetup. I'll share my screen and get us going. Um, so, Sanjeet, obviously you are quite a faithful attendee of these meetups, and so you're pretty up on things. Daniel and Jeff, I don't know if you've seen, well, I know you haven't seen the latest version of SaturnCI because actually nobody has seen this very latest version, not even Sanjeet. Um, but Jeff and Daniel, how much do you guys know what Saturn CI even is? Jeff, have you like heard of Saturn CI at all by chance?
Yes, I did. You were working on it the last time I was here.
Okay. Wow, 2 years ago. Yeah, and Daniel, you're at least a little bit familiar with it, right?
Yeah. I mean, attended a few times, and I know the story.
Yeah. So anybody watching who's not familiar with Saturn CI, it's a CI platform, competitor to GitHub Actions and Circle CI. I created it because I have deep frustrations with those two products. One of the main things is that when a build fails, the thing that you're surely going to be interested in the most is what failed. But both Circle CI and GitHub Actions make you dig to find the failure. Um, in the case of Saturn CI on this particular run, there happened to be two runners. Um, And with GitHub Actions and Circle CI, you kind of have to like scroll and stuff to see the failure, and you have to like click through a few different screens in order to get to the failure. And something that I don't like um, is that if there are failures distributed across multiple runners, like you can see, I have one failure here and a number of other failures here. And when I see this red here, I'm like, this build failed. What caused it to fail? It's annoying to me that I have to look here and here in order to see all the failures. Why should I have to care that they're distributed across these multiple runners? I just want to see all the failures. I don't care where they came from. And so recently I added this overview tab. And you can see on the right-hand side there, it has, well, first of all, it has all of the test cases in the whole test suite here. And if there are any failures, it groups the failures at the top. Um, Furthermore, when you click into a build, I'm happen to be looking at all the failed ones right now, but I'll go to a different one. Okay, so when you click into a build, it takes you straight to the first failure, um, which I think just makes a lot of sense because obviously, again, that's what you're going to be interested in. And I have this nav here that lets you see the failures for all of them. And actually, in the future, I might make it so it's like just one really long page, and clicking here just scrolls you down the page because then you can have all the failures on one page. Anyway, that's the way it is now. Um, and at least for the stage I'm at now, I'm pretty happy with that. But there is something that I'm not totally happy with, which is the performance of this page. Let me get all the failed ones. Okay, so if I open up the network tab and I click around, okay, that took 1.27 seconds, 546 milliseconds, 541. It's quite a slow request. Well, I guess those older ones don't have any stuff in them because that was before I built the feature. Anyway, this is way too slow. I would prefer it to be less than 100 milliseconds. And I happen to know why it's slow, or at least I know one of the contributors. One of the contributors is this menu on the right here. If I go to only past builds, oh wait, past builds will have that menu too. But here, let me do something to show the difference. Um, this is the template where that menu is. If I just delete this, then we can see a significant difference. Okay. Oh, that one still took 500. It's interesting that that particular one's so slow, but you can see most of them are like in the 100s now. That one doesn't have anything in it, but that yielded quite a big improvement. Um, and I'm also curious about something else. I'm curious about this page. I'm curious how much of a performance hit that causes us. So let's go to a test case details and let's just blow away everything inside it. I didn't realize that when I refresh the page, it clears the filter. I'll have to address that. Okay, I took out the guts of it, and now I must have made a mistake. Stuff is not showing up here anymore. I think I accidentally clicked this. Okay, I don't know what I did. What did I do? Oh, did I click this filter thing? Oh no. Okay. I feel like an idiot. What did I do? Nothing's showing up anymore. I'm open to ideas if anybody has any idea what I did to mess this up.
I wasn't following it, but if you just restart it, like that.
Well, if I go out of here and then open it back up. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to failed, clear that. Okay, it's in the hundreds. So not actually much better than it was before, but I think a little bit better. Let's bring this stuff back and see what it was because I don't remember. Yeah, so really not much of an improvement at all. So that's not a big contributor apparently. Okay, but we at least know that the list is. So let's do something about that. So again, let's get kind of a baseline. I want to remind myself what the request times were like. Okay, it's in the 500s for these two. All right. So one thing we could do is we could just cache this. This is not going to be a viable solution for reasons we'll see shortly, but that should at least yield a speed improvement. Okay. Yeah, it's below 200 now, but you can see the menu on the right is just totally messed up. So we can't cache it like that. Um, we will have to at least scope the caching to the current test case run. So let's try that, and I'll fix my indentation here. Okay, so the first request naturally is still slow. Then after that, it's below 200. So that's good, except I think if we start to click around here, oh no, that works. Okay, I was expecting that the active state would be messed up. Okay, actually the active state is messed up because if we click around here, see I'm on this GitHub event spec and then I refresh the page, we're still in the GitHub event spec, but it shows the clear button spec as being the active one. I think that's because this item is cached and so the active state didn't get cleared. Okay, so how could that happen? It's because when you first load the page, you're on this item and this item's active. Why is it active? Because we're setting the test case run to this ID, and then there's a conditional right here that says if the current test case run is the same as the active test case run, then set this class to active. So that's what happens the first time it loads. And then you can click around here, and since this is all controlled via JavaScript, it works fine. The JavaScript clears all the active classes and then makes your currently selected one active. But then when you refresh, it goes back to this because this active state here is cached. All right, so how do we make it so we can cache this list uh, and still have the active state stuff work right? Maybe we can do this. Um, no. Oh wait, we need an array, I think. Test case run equals active test case run. Let's see if that works. Okay, so now I'll go to a different one. Refresh. Okay, I think that's the same one. Clear button. Refresh. Okay, so I think that works. I'm gonna do just one more for fun. Okay, wonderful. Now I'm curious what happens if we go to failed and click around. All right, there's no obviously wrong behavior, and the requests are below 200 milliseconds. Okay, so that's good. That's an improvement. Okay, add caching for test case run list. Okay, now that's an improvement, but 200 milliseconds is still pretty slow. Like, if we go, for example, to these tabs, you can see when we click between these tabs, it feels almost instantaneous. And that is obviously good. I'm going to check and see what the request times on these are. 141, 117. Yeah, so these ones are closer to 100. I'd really like them to be below 100. On the overview tab is 200. That's an interesting clue, maybe. Okay. And then if we click around on these, obviously we were doing that just a second ago. It's in the neighborhood of 200. And let's watch. When I click one of these, there is a noticeable delay between when we click and when the thing loads. I do not want there to be any noticeable delay. So let's try to get this below 100 milliseconds. And the first question is, what's responsible for that delay?
Um, okay, so
Hmm.
this is what comes to my mind first. When we click along the tabs on the left side, the amount of data that is pulled is substantially more than what is being pulled when we are on the right side, isn't it? Because each of those tabs on the right side is pulled, when we do the browsing on the left side.
That's a good question. It's actually not.
Not
Um,
okay, okay.
yeah, because previously, navigating among these would just take you to one of these tabs.
Hmm.
We're only loading one tab at a time. Um, like when we go to this page, in fact, I will stay on runner one here. I'll refresh the entire page. Let's see, that takes, if I go to doc, okay, 279, 324, 205. Okay, so when we load this entire page, that's how long it takes. But then if we go to overview, I suspect that it'll take longer, but I'm wrong. Okay, anyway, back to what you said, Sanjeev. Um, it doesn't load the content of all three tabs. It only loads whichever one you're currently on.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is not it. So what is it? Um, I think I want to find that answer by taking away some of this stuff. So when you click on the overview link, what happens? So you go to this builds um, route. So let's go to the builds controller. Okay, so we're hitting this show action. And right now, it's grabbing the build and it's saying if there are any test case runs, grab the first failed one. No, no, no. If there are any test case runs, sort them with failed first and then grab the first one of those. Okay. And we say if it's a turbo frame request, then we render the builds detail partial. So when we're on this overview page, we can do a full page load, or rather, when we click this link, we can do a full page load. Or if we just click on, actually, under what circumstances does it load just this? Oh, yeah, yeah. If we go to a different tab and then go back to this, it does not do a full page load. It only loads this pane here. Sorry, it only loads this section, these two panes. Yeah. So let me say that again and let me be a little more accurate this time. When we load this URL, when we load this URL, it's not a turbo frame request, so it skips this. When we are not loading the URL, but rather we're just clicking this link, this overview link, then it is a turbo frame request. So we don't load everything. We just load this build detail template, which is the entire contents of what's in this tab. And then we return. So we get a performance benefit from doing that. Okay, and then we say if there are any test case runs, then we redirect to this certain test case run and return. Okay, so let me explain that. Um, we go to this build route, project/ID/build/ID. And you can see that even though we went to the build route, now we're on the test case run URL. So here's the reason for that. Um, this is what well, okay, hang on a second. Let me explain it better. The reason for that is when you first land on the overview page, the only thing that makes sense to show you is the first test case. So we don't want to just plop you on this empty page and leave it to you to click the first one. We want to make the first one already selected. And so that's why it redirects to this route. Okay. And then if you get past all that, in what case would you get past all that? So if there are no test case runs, then it just does this, it creates this build component. Um, so there would be no test case runs if the test is not started, for example. And then it just shows you nothing. Okay. So in going over that, I noticed something a little bit illogical. We have this conditional here, if build.testCaseRuns.any, and then we're doing if build.testCaseRuns.any again. So we're going to the database twice, even though we don't need to. Instead, we can just say if testCaseRun.present. I don't know if that will have any noticeable effect, but let's see. Okay, it's around 200 still. Yeah, so no noticeable effect, but it's at least more logical. All right, so I'm going to commit that. Okay, we'll open the builds controller again. All right. So what I was originally going to do is I was going to take away some stuff to see what's responsible for the load time. So let's do that. If it's a turbo frame request, which it is going to be if we're clicking around like this, then it loads builds detail. So let's go there. All right, so let's take out all the contents of this and see what we get. Okay, you can see now that that's very fast. It's in the neighborhood of 50 milliseconds or a little more, 50 to 70 milliseconds. Obviously, that's great, um, but we need to actually load some stuff. Okay, here's something that could certainly be cached, this header, um, because that's never ever going to change. I'm curious how much that's responsible for. Let's take a look. It's responsible for just about nothing. All right, so I'm not even going to bother to cache that because it wouldn't really do us any good. All right, so here we have this build body, and the first thing in it is this menu. Let's see how much the menu is responsible for. Okay, more than nothing. It's maybe responsible for like 40 milliseconds worth. It's definitely not nothing. Okay, so let's see what could potentially be done to make this more efficient. Okay, so we have this link to overview, and then for each run, we have a link to the run. Okay. Hmm. And I wonder how much each one of these things is responsible for. Let's take off the runs and see what happens. Actually, now that I brought everything back, let's okay, it's around 200 again. All right. So now if I take away, let's just take away the whole menu and see what happens. Do I even have to refresh? Yeah, I've been refreshing for no reason. Okay. Okay, that's a noticeable difference. Yeah. So let's take off just the runs and see what happens. So that is not that noticeable. And let's take off the overview. Um, I can notice a very small difference. Okay. So surprisingly, it seems like this one is actually the bigger of the two. Okay. So how can we make this one more efficient? I'm gonna look at the logs because I'm curious what kind of queries are happening. This is kind of hard to look at. Okay. Yeah, so here's all the queries that are happening. Um, hmm. Okay. Selecting from builds, build policy. And let's actually take a look at build policy. Yeah, we're doing dot project. It seems like by caching the builds project, we might get some gains. So let's see if we can like eager load the builds project. I don't know how to do that, so I'm going to go to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is having a little trouble this morning. Maybe I'll try old DeepSeek. I haven't really tried it much yet. Okay. How can I eager load what was it? Oh yeah, the builds project. It's funny how DeepSeek clearly took no inspiration from the UI of ChatGPT. They look nothing alike.
Uh,
Okay. Includes project. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Let's see if that does anything for us. Again, I did not need to refresh. I don't know why I did that. Habit. Okay. Hmm. That's not a noticeable difference. So looks like that's not worth it apparently. Okay. Um, we do have these test case run requests though. So let's do this. How can I also eager load test case runs? I'm giving it the schema so it knows how builds and test case runs are related. I don't know if that's right though. We'll try. Huh, no error. And again, I keep needlessly refreshing. Okay. So no super obvious benefit. Although I did see it get down to 149. Oh, and I wonder how many queries it's making. Oh, yeah, 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 okay. So 31 queries it said. Can I just repeatedly click on the same thing? Yeah, okay. 29, 29, 29. Okay. So this is a better way to do it. Let me actually count the queries. Okay, 30. All right, so that gave us one less query. One fewer query? One. Okay. Let's see whether it was the project or the test case runs. Yeah, it was the test case runs. Okay. So that's at least one query less. So let's commit that. Um, eager load test case runs. Okay. And I'm just curious, what's test case runs that failed first? Okay, it orders by the status. So that's just an order scope, and then grabs the first one. Okay. Okay. Now let's take a look again at what queries are happening. Okay, select count star from test case runs. I'm maybe going to be jumping around a little bit here. Build detail line 20 and line 21. Okay. I would have thought that these would be eager loaded. Uh-huh. Maybe because it's a turbo frame tag. Okay, so we load builds detail and we pass it build, and build has the test case runs eager loaded. So why? Oh, it's doing the count query. Okay. Yes. How do I get it to not do that?
Can't you just call size instead? I think.
Does that work?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember.
Let's try. All right, so right now there's 29 queries. 28 queries. Okay. I think only one of these two had an effect. I think it was the first one, but for consistency, I like using size on both. All right. So that resulted in one less query. Did it have any noticeable performance effect? The performance actually now seems to be worse, or maybe just about the same. It's funny how it can vary so much. Yeah. Okay. But fewer queries is good, I think. So let's keep that. Um, what the heck was I gonna say? Or what was I gonna put here? Um, replace dot count with the dot size to avoid extra query. Okay. Build detail. Okay, so now if we look at the queries, maybe we'll see that count not there anymore. Okay. We do see one on line 21. Yeah, this one didn't do it. So let's look at failed test case runs. Okay. Yeah, it still has to do a query, apparently because of the status. Let me look. Okay, so we're doing the select here, order by status. Huh. I'm a little confused, but I'm curious if we do this. Um, failed, yeah. We do this, does it result in one less query? It does result in one less query. Okay. Well, that's great. Any noticeable performance difference? Again, it seems to be worse. That's interesting. Hmm. But I'm going to continue with the rationale that fewer queries is better. And so I'm going to keep it. Okay. What do we see in the queries now? Oh, what the heck's going on? Okay, I don't know what this calculated status stuff is about. Oh, maybe that's because there's a build running now. Okay, now we have in app models run line 63. Okay. Okay. Canceled. Oh yeah, okay, I know what that's about. So that comes from run line 51. Yes, because we're asking if this build is finished. Self.class.finished.include. Yeah, and here we're saying anything that's not running is finished. Okay. And the thing is, once a build is finished, it never becomes unfinished. So we can maybe cache this. But it's like if the build is finished, if the build is finished, we want to cache the fact that it's finished. But it's if it's not finished, we don't want to cache it. I don't know how to do that. Since a build, since a run never, oh, sorry, I want to look at build.finished, not run.finished, because that'll give us more bang for our buck. Because if we cache the run finished, then the build will still have to check all the runs. But if we cache the build finished, then it won't have to do that. Okay, since a build never goes unfinished after it's finished, but okay, let me phrase this differently. A build never goes unfinished after it's finished, but when a build is not finished yet, it could change to finished anytime. How do I cache this return value if and only if the build is finished? Um, no, it has to be cached across instances. Use Rails low level caching. Okay, but how do you figure that works? Hmm. All right, let's think about this because apparently ChatGPT is not going to help me. Um, when the build is not finished, I don't want it to be cached. So, okay, let me do this. I can say cache. Oh, whoops. Yeah. Rails.cache.fetch. Yes. Um, but that's no good because if it's not finished, then it'll still cache it. I don't want it to cache it if it's not finished. Okay. So this is sufficiently involved that I think I want to write a test for it. So let's do this. Okay. Is there a test for the finished method? Oh, there's not even a test for the finished method. Okay, let's add one. Okay. So build is not finished. It returns false, yes. Okay. Build is finished. Oops, I don't know why I didn't accept the suggestion there. Returns true. Okay. Let me see how I want to write this. Status is not equal to running, and status is not equal to not started. Um, okay. Well, let's do this. Context build status is finished. Yeah. All right, let's see if this works. Okay. And let's actually formulate this other one differently. Let's say build status is running. Oh, and we don't need a run for this or for the other one, I don't think. Wonderful. Okay, so I'll commit that because that's good just to have in general. Okay. I do want to check on my test runs and make sure everything's still passing. Okay, yeah, so far so good. This is production. Okay. Now let's write some tests for the caching. So let's add this context. Um, build status changes from running to finished. Yeah. Okay. So let's do this. Okay, so it's at running and then it's false. Then it changes to finished and we expect it to be true. Now, of course, this is going to work now because there's no caching involved. But as you can see, if we were to add this caching just like this, it would introduce a bug if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because it caches the result. Oh, we one option is we could make it so that when the status changes, it busts the cache. Hmm, that might be the way to go, actually. Hmm, maybe, but maybe not. Okay, here's another thought. Um, okay, so it's like, all right, so if that stuff is true, then it's true, otherwise it's false. And here we could write to the cache. Okay, and we don't need it to ever expire. Okay, and then this will still pass, but then it doesn't fetch from the cache. So we need to make sure that it fetches from the cache. Okay, so here we want to say um, build is finished and the finished state is checked twice. And we'll say it does not execute a query on the second check. Um, actually, how did the AI implement this? Oh, expect it to receive status once. Okay. Okay. Will this fail? Expected one time and we got it four times. Yeah, we actually should be expecting it twice. Okay, expected it two times and got it four times. Okay, that seems right. Um, okay, I'm gonna add a comment to this twice because finished calls status twice. Okay. Now we can say if there's something in the cache, then return what's in the cache. Okay. Okay, so if there's something in the cache, return that. Okay, let's try this. Okay, that passes. Do all these tests for finish pass? Okay. Do all the tests in this file pass? They do. Okay. All right, and before we were getting 25 queries? No, that's not the right page. My memory is we were getting 27. 9 queries. Wow, okay. So just to be extra sure, If I revert this back to the way it was, or, I can just comment this line. Okay, 27 queries again. Yeah, so this takes us from 27 queries to just 9. So that's a lot better. Um, at this particular moment, it's loading very slowly. And I don't know why that is. That's interesting. Nine queries, but it's loading really, really slowly. Okay, let's do this. Let's put this back to here. Does that make it go faster again? If it does, that'll be confusing. No, it doesn't. Okay. I don't know why it's so slow now. That is pretty weird.
Do you have a build running?
I do in production, but that shouldn't affect oh, it looks like I don't even have one running in production. And even if I did, that shouldn't affect local. But yeah, I'm suspecting that maybe there's something putting a load on the local server, and that's what's causing that. Not that I think it'll do anything, but I'm going to restart and see what happens. Reloading this page, it's going to take a minute. And it's the end of the hour, so I do need to go in just a second. Let's let this reload and see what happens. I also got some kind of problem where loading this page for the first time takes a really long time. Okay. Okay, so we're back to around 200 milliseconds. And that's not really any appreciable difference, but I am happy about the fact that we're down to 9 queries. Just curious if I click from build to build. Yeah, it still looks pretty slow. So there's still more work to do, but we got a certain ways. Um, okay. Couple more things to share real quick before we go. If anybody's interested in trying out SaturnCI, you can go to app.saturnci.com. Don't go to SaturnCI.com because it doesn't work. So don't go there. Go to app.saturnci.com and you can, oh, sorry, one second. Okay, you can sign in with GitHub and then you can add a project and you can check it out. And you'll probably run into trouble because the onboarding process isn't very good yet. But you can, like, if you're really interested, you can email me and I'm happy to work with you to get your project set up. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing I want to mention is I'm putting on a conference that's happening in Las Vegas. I think all you guys here know about it. Um, but that's happening April 10th and 11th, and we're having some wonderful speakers, including well, all these people you see here. So that will be a lot of fun. If you want to If you want to come to Sin City Ruby, if you want to learn more about it, you can go to sincityruby.com. Okay. Oh, did I stop sharing my screen a minute ago? I meant to be showing those last few things I did. Anyway, sincityruby.com if you want to check out the conference. Thanks guys for coming, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks,
See ya.
Jason.